Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. A reminder, as always, guys, there is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about these markets. I'm Snorlax. I'm joined by Jackus and Dr. Will's Outlook. Welcome, guys. Max is going on vacation for a little bit, and Tucker is getting married this week. So you are joined by this lovely face and two lovely profile pictures next to me. Might also be joined by my mom's cat. She's pretty vocal, so we'll see. But welcome, guys. Welcome. I hope you have had a fantastic week so far. Weeks really fly by in the crypto markets. I say that all the time, and I don't think that is that is something that we see pretty often, right? These weeks just fly. Like, it is already Thursday, man. It's already Thursday. We're getting more news. Obviously, we were looking forward to the Ethereum ETF last week, but we are getting, yeah, I know. She's very vocal. I'm sure we'll hear a few times today, but obviously we were looking forward to the ETH ETF next week. Today we got news that the Solana ETF, maybe it's going to happen, maybe it's not going to. I think what's more important is how the market kind of reacts to that news, and obviously what it means for other assets in the market. And we're going to be talking about that and more later on in this stream. I know that the Solana ETH debate is going to be a very hot topic on today's show. But before we can do that, guys, before we can start cooking, I'm going to need you guys to smash that like button. You've done an exceptional job already this week. So to that regard, I don't want to pester you too much, but I do want to pester you a little bit too, though, because it's like I said, you guys have been doing so great, and we want to be able to keep running up these numbers. Some of these comments, man. Yeah, you guys are definitely probably going to see me FUD ETH today a little bit, but more a bull case for Solana. But yeah, hitting the like button takes 1 second, guys. If you could just give us 1 second out of your day to smash that like button for us, we'd be very appreciative. But like I said, guys, some very big news in the market today. Obviously, Solana, the Solana ETF. Maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a guarantee to go live and not go live right away, but there are still probably implications as far as what that means for capital allocation to things like Ethereum on the eve or on the verge of Ethereum's ETF going live. And also, kind of multifaceted within that, right, is every time that we've seen Solana pump over the last year and a half, it's typically been beta to Bitcoin, not to Ethereum. So I do think that, once again, this raises very interesting questions about where Ethereum currently sits within this market, where I think that means for Bitcoin, and of course, what that potentially means for Solana if you're going to have a lot of new capital, and even not just native, but also TradFi potentially trying to front run an ETF decision. Because what we've often seen is when these ETFs go live, you do have that initial sell-off at first, and obviously Bitcoin's eventually resolved to the upside. We don't know what Ethereum and any other ETFs are going to do after they launch, but at least in the lead up to the launch of the ETF, we've seen tremendous amounts of front running into those assets. So do we see that continue into Sol? Do we think Sol ETH has bottomed or is in the process of bottoming? And then, of course, where do memes fit into all of this? Is this the spot where we see Solana memes take the reins back from ETH memes like Mog, like Pepe? I think these are important questions to ask, and of course, we're going to be looking at these charts pretty in depth today. But I'll share my screen today, unless you have some alpha you want to cook for us, Jackus, in which we can hit a certain like button threshold. I know Will is traveling home; he's getting himself some breakfast, but not of the breakfast burrito variety today. Either way, guys, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. I'd love to know, kind of how you're digesting this Solana ETF news that we're seeing right now, and anything else that you might be seeing in the markets.
I first want to know, how are we digesting the meow in the background? Because that must be some hidden secret alpha signal that we need to absolutely ape right now.
Oh man, she's telling me what shitcoin I need to ape next. I have a feeling she'll end up on camera at some point, but yeah, she's an elderly cat, so she's very communicative.
Bring her. Listen, we will. You need to read her the shitcoin list, and when she says meow, you just go long.
What do you think about Solana?
She will be the. She will. Nothing.
What do you think about ETH? No
Nothing.
comment. Nothing.
No comment.
She wants
She'll,
us to go further down the risk curve, I think.
yeah, she will be the most famous cat on crypto Twitter. She'll be like, "We are longing everything the cat meows on," outperforming 99% of the traders.
Well, what you got to do is you got to bait her. So you pull out food and then you ask her about Solana. That's how you do it.
Well, then I have to smell wet food next to my computer the whole time, and I don't know if I want to do that.
This is the way, Tommy. This is the way.
This is the hidden alpha. But on a more serious note, what do you guys think about the news that we got on Solana, and of course, especially, yeah, there she is, what it means for for Ethereum?
When you say what it means
Will?
for
What it means for Ethereum, yeah.
The Solana ETF, what does that mean for Ethereum?
I think it means something for ETH, if nothing, or well, I think it does mean something, but it's TBD exactly what it's going to mean.
The thing I think when it comes to the Solana ETF specifically is that a lot of people will fade it, but I think people need to just go back to, and I'll continue to iterate this. 25K Bitcoin when the ETF started to be real, right? And then when the ETF actually happened and we got the retrace, and everybody swore the ETF was the top, or swore that the stock wasn't going to move up anymore because we got an ETF involved. And then what did we do? Well, we teleported, right? Teleportation, it's a thing. From
Study
25K.
teleportation.
Yeah, I was about to say study teleportation.
We teleported from 25K to 75K. Nobody's going to acknowledge it, right? And I think with ETFs, if you were to say that ETH and Solana were on even playing grounds, right? And those were the only two things you could bid, I would say your best RR trade is going to be Solana, right? I would not say it's going to be Ethereum, and that's just based on market cap and how easy it is to move a market cap. I think that once this kind of settles in and people accept, like the normie thing to do, I'll put it like this: the normie thing to do is to fade this. That's the normie thing to do, and I think initially that will work, but again, just like the 25K to 30K range, when we dumped from 30K back into the 25K range again, I think that price will appreciate and people will shit themselves once they see it happen. And in a big way, right? And then everybody's going to be a Solana maxi at the top. So I think like your RR reward here is much better on Solana than ETH. But I do think that Ethereum beta is a good play too. Here's how I view it. Like when people present me ordinals and they present me runes and I want to put this out there in place, right? You want when you're playing beta, you want your beta to either be extremely volatile or more stable. I would say BTC and ETH are pretty stable. And so your volatility of BTC ETH is not going to be very high, which means your upside is going to be limited on what they can do, stacked with your beta that you're using to make those an exponential, right? But Solana is just a different monster altogether because you can make Solana and then Solana can also do exponentials on top of what you made. So I think that when you're looking at these two from a structure standpoint, I think your better RR trade based if you're buying beta is on Solana. And I think people know that based on what Solana can do for performance on top of the beta that they're already buying. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts are.
It's kind of like the degen denomination of choice for the cycle, in the same way that obviously ETH was in 2020 and 2021. And I think that the question that's so interesting to me is, we're getting this ETF much sooner than obviously we got an ETH futures ETF. So does this expedite the cycle in any way to you guys, or do you think this is just kind of a different paradigm this cycle where we're going to have a ton of ETFs get launched, and maybe it does result in kind of that like euthanasia roller coaster where each ETF pump gets smaller, and then eventually like it kickstarts a second cycle where, okay, you already have all of these products to invest in, come get them.
Ooh, I love that question. So my perspective is not the same as probably most, but I think the ETFs are just a reason for retail to step in, right? And once you get enough of them, then retail will step in, and then they'll be more excited about price, and they'll be more involved with price. I think that every cycle has its reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. What were we saying, Jack?
Yeah, sorry. I do not know if the ETFs are like for the retail though. Like the ETFs are mainly for institutions, because retail can just buy on their phone from their local exchange, right? That's where I think most retail is. I suppose there will be some that buy the ETFs too, but this is mainly for bigger players.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that the ETFs are for retail to use, but they're reason for retail to come in. Because it's like it's almost like you're telling people, hey, institutions are buying, you should buy too. And that's how retail likes to buy. They like to buy behind all the safe money. And so they'll come in and they'll buy direct, like what you're saying, but they'll feel more comfortable if big money's doing it also, even though they're buying their bags.
Well, in any case, who is buying? Someone is going to be buying, and it's definitely bullish for its respective market, whatever the ETFs is. And I feel like someone trying to say that ETFs are bearish for the asset is like, I don't know, like either he's perma bear, or he's just trying to like overthink it, because it's just more accessibility to the market. Like you will have new market participants entering, and there are definitely some that cannot have exposure to native crypto tokens, but they can have it by buying stocks, which is what ETFs are. Not to mention that in some legislation, you have to pay taxes, like big ones, on crypto, but you do not have to do that on stocks if you hold them like, you have a time test. So for example, if you hold stocks for 3+ years, you do not have to pay taxes on that. So I suppose this can be a reason for lots of big players to own the ETF rather than the actual crypto.
I would agree with that. No, I would definitely. I think what might happen is we see and I'm going to keep using the phrase, the euthanasia roller coaster. For those who don't know, I've talked about it before. Like what it essentially represents is like Bitcoin ETF, ETH ETF, Solana ETF, any further ETFs. But what I think is going to end up happening is crypto native capital creates that. And then eventually the fact that you have those products, like you said, Jack, is that that accessibility is eventually going to cause a real bubble in crypto. When crypto native capital is done, it's not going to be caused by when crypto native capital is done chasing these rotations, but I do think that will be a byproduct that we see.
That's what I'm saying, Tommy, is like, I think that, so everything, like if you look at this from a bigger picture, it's been kind of these metas, right? And I feel like we're moving into the ETF meta, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we moved from the meta of just buy shit coins, number go up, to send money to this contract address and get an airdrop and you'll make a lot of money, to, fly by night, super scammy shit coins that go to like hundreds of billions of dollars in no time, to the move, or to the, we'll say, D-list celebrity type, run my coin up type plays. And now I think we're moving into this ETF meta. And I think if people broke these down by categories, you'll see that more and more and more. The spark of the ETF meta, just like Pepe was for the meme coin market, it was Bitcoin, right? And now that we've gotten one through, what are you going to see? You're going to see every single hedge fund out there trying to run it up on an ETF, trying to open an ETF on some random ass coin. I mean, think about here's the thought process, and I want to put this in people's minds because I do think it's possible. Think about if Sui got a ETF, because it is run by prior Facebook dev team. Think about it.
No, like, I know you're bullish on Sui, but like
no. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm simply stating if it becomes part of the ETF meta, right? Like just like how you circled and it comes down. I think that you'll probably see something not Solana, not Ethereum, not Bitcoin get an ETF also. Somewhere's in that meta. I think there'll be a 4. I think there'll be 4.
It'll probably be Doge. Like
maybe 5, right?
The more I think the more ETFs that they pump out in the short term, the more dilution to the crypto space, at least to the existing ETFs. But I'm going to continue to say over the long run, I think it'll prove to be a really bullish catalyst because you're just giving more investors accessibility to these products at the end of the day.
But yeah, and I didn't mean it to like, because we're not going to obviously pump the price of Sui. Sui is really, really big market cap, but I meant it more in the aspect of who's behind the coin. You know, what's the team look like? Are they doxed? You know, and have they got U.S. relations? And I think that those are important contexts when you're looking at ETH ETFs. I don't think you should anticipate ETH ETFs outside of Bitcoin. I do want to make this clear. Outside of Bitcoin, I think every other ETH ETF should be anticipated with somebody who has U.S. relations, because it's the only way you're going to get it through regulation. And so I think if you are speculating, you need to be in that category.
Sorry to cut you out, but we have a technical. I've noticed there are some people spamming their shitcoins in the chat, so maybe we should do some banning on that.
I see. There are a few of you, but
for example, this guy Wally probably should be banned because all right, let's do fair notice right first. So Wally, he was asking if we can read his comment, and then when we said we can, he just started. Well, he didn't spam, but he shilled Wolf twice. So this is something that will get you banned, guys. Just notice. And I've also seen some people mentioning the baby Doge or something. Baby Andy.
Right? Don't even chill it, man. Don't even give it airtime. But yeah, you guys are not. You're not. I mean, if you do that, we're going to ban
definitely
you.
No contracts.
If you blindly show us contracts in the comments, we'll ban you. But you do get a fair warning here, so we won't just like full stack block you right now. But yeah. Now back to the conversation, Jack. What were you saying about Solar, or was Will talking about?
Will was talking. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, Will, but this was really technical because I do not want to see that in the chat. We have a pretty reasonable one, so sometimes like.
Yeah, and we just to kind of add context to that, Jack. It's like the stuff we talk about, we usually vet and we try to do our best to make sure that they're safer, right, for the general public. And so, like, there's always the potential. I'm just going to say it for the audience, especially the new members who may be new to the audience, new to crypto. There's always a scenario somebody's going to show you a rug, and that's something we try to avoid. That's why we don't allow other shilling other than what we're discussing. If you're like, well, that's not fair, well, then I would say just start your own show, see how many people show up. And
it's also just like rating. People think rating is a super based thing to do, and it's actually just really cringe, and you're kind of just doxing yourself as poor. Not that it's important, but it's just like, why are you 100%. Trying to be annoying about it, man? Like, we're trying to do a good show for you guys, and we'll talk about shit coins, but we're not going to just shill a contract that you're dropping in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that out there. Like, I know people may not like it, and also, I'm sure YouTube algorithms and stuff like that don't like it either. So it's something that we try to be on top of. But I think, like, just getting back to the discussion at hand with the ETFs, I think this is just the ETF meta, and I think it's starting to play out. I mean, hey, we've already gotten Bitcoin, Ethereum really fast now, right? And Solana, and you got Van Eck behind it, right? Van Eck's a really, I would say substantial name in the game when it comes to finance, and I think that with Van Eck standing behind it, it has some legs. So I would say it's something worth worth entertaining, but at the end of the day, I think it's a meta, and I think these metas come. Sorry, I think these metas come and they go, right? So I think in the peak bull, it will bring a lot of liquidity to these chains specifically. But I think, like, in the current market, it's a meta, and these are followers to Bitcoin's ETF. So I don't think they'll perform as well as Bitcoin's ETF did.
Yeah, I think we can see that too, Will, with the, like, you see the most price appreciation for these assets, at least. I mean, we kind of have a small sample size, so I am extrapolating here, right? But like we see a majority of the positioning, and I think this is reflective of crypto in general. Like, majority of positioning happens before an event. Pretty much with the exception of the Bitcoin ETF, and obviously we had to sell the news right after, but after that it was a buying opportunity. When you have a news event for an altcoin, it's almost explicitly been a sell the news event for like a year and a half without fail. So I do think it makes me some, and this is where I want to hear from Jackus, is it makes me somewhat concerned for ETH. If it's like you said, Will, if you're just looking at the two assets straight up right now as a capital allocator, where do you think has more opportunity, a SOL or ETH ETF? If they're both just available and you don't have exposure to either one, there's probably, I mean, yes, you could have more drawdown in Solana, but the upside is much higher in Solana than ETH. I think most of us would probably agree with that. Not to say that ETH can't go higher, right? But it's now that we have the Solana ETF, at least until that gets digested in the market, ETH's like capital attractiveness really comes from that store of value narrative rather than the L1 narrative, because there's another L1 potentially getting an ETF that could be more attractive. And the store of value narrative, now you're in Bitcoin's domain. So ETH's kind of in this weird spot to me, where I'm sure it will get flows, but I don't think the SOL ETF announcement could have had worse timing for Ethereum specifically.
Well, one more thing to add real quick, and I think Emmy, IMMI there in the comment section, they kind of hit the nail on the head, but they kind of missed the goalpost. People discussing Solana outperforming Ethereum, it's already happened. Solana's already outperformed Ethereum by exponentials. So it's not a matter of it will. It already has. And I don't think that Ethereum will catch up to Solana's outperformance. Like, regardless of what it does. $8 to $80 Solana has already outperformed Ethereum, I think, for the cycle. And we're already well above that. So I think, like, if you look at it from that context, Solana is the outperformer this cycle over Ethereum, over Bitcoin, when it comes to large cap layer ones. And I think people really need to respect that and understand that, regardless of whether it performs any more this cycle. It's still outperformed, and it's going to continue to outperform. I think that, with that being said, if people are looking for opportunity, and I'm going to keep voicing this because I think it's important, they need to be looking at other L1s that have potential, because I think that that's your better trade, even though they don't have ETFs, at least for the long term, right? For the long term, moving into the next cycle, so on and so forth. I think there's a lot of these L1s that have potential, are seeing some flows. And I think that they will be, possible contenders in the next cycle. So it's something to look at in the next bear market.
And I see the argument that Solana might not get approved, which is true. It might not get approved. And I would actually argue that that's probably bullish for Solana, because as we're seeing on approval, they'll sell off. Like the pump occurs in the anticipation of the launch of the ETF. Like most of the gains will probably for these altcoins occur in the lead up to the ETF. And then after the market has digested the ETF, then I think the ETFs will be a huge tailwind for price. But right now, I think the meta is you pump into the event, maybe sell off after. But if the buildup for Solana is going to be until March, I would say that's arguably more bullish. But I want to get Jackus's opinion. Jackus, how are you kind of viewing this Solana discussion versus Ethereum obviously launching an ETF as soon as next week?
So I was always saying that the Solana and I think XRP ETFs are on the way. I think BNB possibly, and then we will see top 10, ETF, and then top 100, and then we will see, like S&P 500 ETF of a crypto version. I think this is good. It's going to mean it's good for the price. Let's put it that way. It's new capital coming in. So I always was saying this is going to come. I did not expect the Sol ETF to come in so quickly. I actually do not know what the news are exactly. So is it like that it's just, I think Vanek just filled, right? Just for the ETF, but we do not know if it's going to get accepted or anything. They just filled for it, right? So that's different to ETH for now, right? That's different when ETH ETF was filled for quite some time, and then it got accepted after many, many months. And in that time, ETH did not outperform. So I think this could be the same. Obviously, we do not, but also there is a question, right? So like, if the ETH ETF is accepted, well, we can definitely accept the Sol one way quicker. So there'll always be like the question of timing. I think the timing isn't exactly the best right now for Sol, given that I still think that the spotlight will be on ETH now when the actual ETF goes live in the next 5 days. But again, it will depend on when it actually is approved for Sol and when it starts to trade. That will matter a lot. And I will still stand by the fact that when I look at the Sol ETH pair, I do not see it as bullish right now. It would need to reclaim some levels. For me right now, it's still just a bearish retest on that pair, and I still think it goes lower. I also think that ETH BTC being on the verge of breaking higher from that very long downtrend, and ETH USD pair being on the verge of breaking that crucial 4K resistance. And actually, for the first time, we are seeing like ETH USD strength on its own, not being like strong just relative to Bitcoin in terms of not being so weak. So I still think that ETH is going to outperform for some time, but then I still think that Sol is going to outperform ETH again. So it will be a question of timing, in my opinion, as I was always saying. Like 2 years ago, I was saying that Solana will produce the most returns of majors of the cycle, and that is going to be the play. But everything moves in cycles, right? So locally, I think that ETH will take the spotlight, especially once it breaks 4K. I think that when Sol ETF goes actually live, and again, the timing will matter a lot, then Sol will take it back. And that's my current take. And by the way, Ime, I'm not going to be polite. You are on the verge of getting banned. So just putting it that way. All right. And the reason is because you keep swearing at me, probably because I attacked WIF, which is probably your all-in altcoin. So I understand that emotions are big with you, but if I read any more insults from you, then it's a bye-bye.
Isn't this the fractal that Tucker had on ETH Bitcoin like way back months ago? I want to say it is.
Yeah, except your bottom's already in. But
I mean, you hope so. I to me, this opens the door for new lows on ETH Bitcoin, but I'm not gonna be super bearish on ETH against Bitcoin. More, I more think I'm bearish ETH against Solana specifically, but
real quick. So I guess one thing that Todd said, and Todd, you're an avid listener and you show up to the show, so no insults, obviously, but I think that one thing that he stated was that Solana, the SEC will never approve Solana as an ETF. I would beg to differ. The reason I would beg to differ is for a couple of reasons. One, Solana is I would say the poster child of what the government loves, and that's centralization. And two, it's basically U.S. resident. So I think looking at those two factors together makes Solana a very attractive play for the government to want to approve the chain itself, because they can shut it off whenever they want. Right? They can control it whenever they want. So the government's like, hey, stop and halt all movement on your chain. They can literally turn the button off. Bullish. And I think that's
off selling.
Bro, that's 100. Look, what do they do in the stock market if there's too much volatility? They halt trading. And if they really want to, they can literally lock up Solana's network anytime they wanted to. And Solana can't say, oh, we can't do it, we're decentralized, because that's not the case. They're very centralized. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, I think it is something that they would actually find more attractive than what most people understand. I don't know. What's your take on that, Tommy?
That they'll find Solana more attractive because it's centralized?
Yeah.
I do not know if I can agree with that, because why would they be fighting XRP then? Because XRP is probably even more centralized than Solana.
Yeah, but you can't shut the chain off.
Why not?
It's literally a decentralized chain. You can't shut it off. Like the difference between Solana and every other chain is they have an on-off switch for their entire chain. That's literally the difference between them and every other one. And really, in reality, this may be the future of a lot of this space, is from turning from decentralization to centralization, and then getting approvals from the SEC for ETFs. I know some people will be like, well, why they approve Solana, or why they approve Ethereum, why they approve Bitcoin? Because you would never get acceptance into the space without at least approving those two. I think though, moving forward, if you see a Solana get approved, I would think that you're going to see more and more chains try to be like Solana with centralization.
I don't know if it's a prerequisite, but I think there are probably some things about that are true, right? Like they definitely want the ability to control the flow of things a bit more stringently. Yeah, the SEC loves centrality. Mr. Smith, you hit the nail on the head. I think that would probably be what it is. I don't know if that will be a driving factor behind why they would approve it, but I think for some institutional investors, it might matter more, right? Because they probably don't, a lot of institutional investors aren't going to care about decentralization, any of that, but they will care, like if shit's hitting the fan, is there a kill switch? I mean, that's probably how they'll interpret it, even if that's not explicitly how it works. The Sol chain will just randomly shut off. Not to like prevent systemic risk, but it'll literally just shut off. It'll be fun watching TradFi figure that out. To them, it'll probably just be, oh, like TDA is down. Who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah,
imagine one asset on Solana is having too much volatility, and they're like, all right, just shut the whole chain down. Think about it.
What do you guys think about Sol memes, given this news? Do you think, okay, and I'm going to say this too, because one of the things I noticed in the morning was, Pepe got a bid, a lot of altcoins did, but it really didn't hold the bid that it had this morning. Like it kind of looks weak coming out of this breakout. Because I want to say a lot of these Solana memes, like look at the volume on that, and Bonk.
my take to answer the WIF question, my take on WIF is still the same as I was saying a few days ago, that we will get the bounce on it as the whole market goes, but it's coming from beneath the prior structure. So it's a bearish retest basically. And until we get a further reclaim higher, something like Tommy is showing here, then I wouldn't be bullish on it.
Yeah.
That is a reasonable take to have. But I suppose some people are all in and they get emotional. So
Well,
it is what it is.
you're right at the mid range. I think that's a great context to the conversation here. Is that you can very easily reject at this range, very easily reject at this range, and if you reject, you're going to do exactly as you have outlined right there on the chart. Come right back down to those lows again, right, and dive deeper. And I think just waiting for the breakout to occur is more important. I like that vertical cum, how you set that up there on the chart, because that's exactly what I would expect if it were to break out, is that vertical cum.
Yeah.
So you would get time to enter before the actual top tick hit. And then at that point, you could enter, take the upside, and then cut the position at the upside, and then wait and see what it wants to do from there.
I think if WIF makes new highs, then it's definitely going to be one of the. I believe WIF will make new highs personally. I think if WIF does make new highs, though, you do kind of have to admit it's probably going to be the chosen soul beta of the cycle still. But let's look at. I think this chart is equally as important. If we're going to call it the chosen soul beta of the cycle, because
the one nobody talks about bonk until it moves, man. I'm telling you, every single time.
Kind of looks like it's going to do this, find a floor, and then
Nobody cares about anything until it moves.
Yeah. And actually, I think bonk looks pretty good.
I think so too.
But nobody's going to say anything about it, right? The structure is in an uptrend. It looks really good from the lows. You could literally draw a low structure uptrend all the way across those lows, and you bounce right off it.
Listen, people will attack you if you don't support their backs. And sometimes, as Max was saying earlier today in the BB Discord call, they will attack you if you just start supporting its competitor. So
they're not here to make money. They're here to be cult followers.
Let's make an example, right? You can have someone that was bullish ETH, but then he would become bullish SOL as well, and he would be bullish both. And the ETH community would attack him just for being bullish on SOL at the same time. And you can, I used ETH and SOL because they are the majors, but you could insert there any other meme coin, for example, and people would behave the same. Community members, as AZTV says, exactly.
Yeah,
these are the coins that people wanted to bid on chain with the most volume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody asked about Zaid. Asked about Updog. Look, Updog still in it. Haven't sold a single one. I'm not worried. I think a lot of these things end up getting wrecked because of Bitcoin's downside, and they may continue to trade kind of sideways for now. But ultimately, just be convicted to your conviction plays. Like, there's no reason to be too vocal about it. I think that people always want vocalization as if that's the reason to be invested in something. I think conviction is everything, and I don't think you have to say a word if you know what you're getting into. So that's just my perspective on a lot of this. I think, like, as of right now, though, even though we're kind of seeing this stuff go on in crypto, it's not really that interesting. But the stock market is just getting hotter and hotter on the low cap, mid cap plays. And I think that everybody would do too much stock market because it's just getting hotter and hotter. Like, you gotta understand when you see strength. Look, when EVs start to heat up, it's a good play. Go ahead, Jacobs.
I would love to hear your takes and pick who wants to start. But what do you guys still think of the meme versus utility in the coming months? Because in my opinion, it's not going to be both running. I think it's going to be one or the other. Maybe I'm wrong there.
No, I agree with utility. I think utility is going to happen. 100% think utility is going to happen. And I've talked about this many times. Utility is where it's at, guys. Like utility is where it's at. I like that fractal, by the way, Tommy.
I do too, man. I do too. I'm not
it
gonna
looks
lie. I might
clean.
have to buy some PopCat soon.
But I will say, I think that there'll be a shift, but I think the shift won't occur until Bitcoin breaks the range. I think once Bitcoin breaks the range, it's time to get the retail in. How do you do it? Hey, here's some safe plays. These are just like stocks. They have utility. Buy them. It's like buying the company. Not that your exit liquidity they're going to dump on your face, because they are. And people will buy into the utility narrative. I think that when you put two and two together, that's how that's going to play out. But I think Bitcoin needs to break this range first. I think shitcoins continue to play king in this range.
Yeah, it's a kind of a complicated topic, because I don't know why I think people would not bid meme coins. Like why would they bid something like say over a meme coin? But I also think that a lot of these, quote unquote utility coins are at a pretty big, they're at obviously big levels of demand for one. And if you have Solana getting an ETF, to Will's point, like you're going to have people rushing to get into, what's going to be the next thing to launch as an ETF? What's the next big layer 1 to, or layer 2, layer 3, whatever the hell you want to call them now. What's the next one to launch? And there could be some front running of that. I look at something like, oh God, Say. And, this should probably be where Say bounces out from. If it doesn't, then
it's over.
It is over.
I agree.
And I would say the same for the STX chart, which looks the same. So
yeah, I think that
just to add to STX, I think that if BTC is truly bottom here, then STX should be as well, and then probably I suppose Say and others. If BTC loses the support, then STX definitely loses its support, and then the hard time frame structure is broken for STX. So I think they are kind of both on the verge there.
If I could borrow the chart real quick when you're done there.
Go for it, brother.
I need you to cheat it for me though.
All
right, there we go. So one thing I've noticed on the daily on Bitcoin, and this has really perked my interest, is let me point out two things and you tell me what you see here. What do you see there?
Where? There's a lot on the screen.
And
the RSI. Yeah, RSI should be finding a low here very soon.
It already did.
Well,
certain.
So
I don't get it. How after so many years of BTC respecting the daily RSI, people still keep fading it. They're like, no, RSI is not useful indicator, blah, blah, blah. Every single time, man, look at the bounces.
You want to see something? Look, 30, 30, 30, 30. Now let me point these out as inflection points in the chart. 30, 30, 30, 30. What do you see?
Yeah. Just to add to that, right? So it doesn't mean that like when daily RSI hits oversold that we cannot the price cannot dip slightly lower, but it's usually a bottoming area, and obviously depending on the context, are we in a bear market or bull market? Obviously, if we are in a bear market, you will see bounces, then price heads lower until it hits oversold again. But we are in a bull market, and when you get oversold in a bull market, that's usually the local bottom.
Yeah, and I always asking questions. I know it can be annoying, but it's just I want people to think, right? I don't just want to be like, hey, here's the answer, everybody. I want you to because if you think about it, you then understand it, and if you understand it, then you can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But if you don't think about it and I just tell you, you're like, oh, that's guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Because you don't know what I'm talking about. That's why you're saying that. You don't know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm trying to explain it. But I can tell you this right here. The 30 has been the bottom inflection point the entire cycle. The entire cycle. So, and on the daily. So if you're looking at this and you're like, hey, I think it's going to go lower. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Like, here's the thing. Look, it did go lower here, but how much lower did it go? How much lower did it go? What, you expecting Bitcoin to come back down and retouch the same low again? Okay. How's your short doing? Tell me that. How's your short doing from here? I think people need to take this and really kind of think about this in the back of their mind. Because even if we trade like this, like I think we're going to.
All right. Bye-bye, Emmy.
Painful.
Bye-bye.
It's getting the hammer.
Oof. So, like, I think it's going to. I think that, again, this is really good context. Show me a 30 that's not the bottom. Show me a 30 tap on a daily that's not the bottom.
Wasn't it not the bottom in I'm just going off my memory.
Other than
here.
the bear market.
I'm gonna look at the daily RSI. I just want to, yeah. It was the that 25K low was super oversold. I guess we could still get that level of oversold still on Bitcoin.
Since this low, this has been the inflection bottom. Since the bull market reignited.
You're talking about the trend line?
No, I'm talking about these areas. So,
oh yeah, right.
These areas right here, again, have been the inflection bottom since this trend has started. Anytime you come into the 30, demand hits, price then reverses, goes right back up. Price thing does what? It then goes back to the high, right? Was this the top? No, because we had the bear div, right? We had the bear div. So the bear divs mark the tops. Boom. Once you get into something like this, you can then now look at, okay, what do I need to do from here? And you could sell here and then roll it back down. But the tops are much harder to call. The tops are much harder to call than these bottoms. The bottoms are much easier to call here. Like, because if you would have sold every top, you would have sold the beginning of the run-up, right? If you'd have sold the top here, you would have sold the beginning of the run-up, at least from the midpoint. If you'd have sold kind of the top over here, right, you would have been selling before you would have got this last run-up. So you can't really sell the tops, but you can do what? You can buy the bottoms on the RSI.
Especially on I think it's also important to mention this will not work on every single altcoin out there. It works for things of value. When you have BTC, which has a fundamental value, and I understand that not everyone may see it, but it has one for lots of people. And that's the same, for example, with stock companies, right, that are producing something of value. Then the oversold does matter on those a lot. It's different when you have a shitcoin that's just been pumped and it has no bid. It doesn't produce anything. Then the RSI can stay oversold forever, and the shitcoin can just perpetually keep on bleeding, and it's not going to respect any support, any demand, nothing. It can just perpetually bleed. And I think that's very important to differentiate in crypto. When you are, and I learned that myself, right? Because it's different when you are trading and analyzing BTC, ETH, and majors, and it's different when you are analyzing low caps or micro caps. So just keep that in mind. But BTC, as well as saying, huge tool.
Yeah, I Smash says too much hindsight doesn't look good. I appreciate you, Smash. I know you're a regular enjoyer of the show, right? A regular enjoyer. But if you look at this chart, I bought. And where are
I
we
think
at in price?
This is a good example of using hindsight analysis to know where the next bid zones are going to be within a trend, in my opinion.
And now, if you want to say I'm bullshitting you, here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. Dates, numbers, everything. All right. I don't use hindsight to trade. I don't. I use hindsight to teach. I use foresight to trade. That's the difference. That's what I'm trying to tell people here. Is like, use hindsight. You want to learn from hindsight, but you don't want to use hindsight as a future trading strategy. Now, what do we see here? What is this called when you see these? It's called a pattern, right? When you start to see a pattern created, you have to look for other patterns that kind of line up with those patterns. And then once you see 2 or 3 or 4 patterns start to play together, now you've got a trend. And once you've got a trend, you can then use that trend to trade the market. So I'm not telling you, I'm telling you realistically, okay? Realistically, I would look at this and I'd be like, this is a bid zone. This isn't hindsight at all. This is foresight. Foresight telling you that this is a bid zone and that the RSI is indicating moving forward, right? And just so people know, like, I didn't bring that up to brag. Like, I know a lot of people think that I'm always trying to be arrogant and brag and stuff like that. I brought it up to show you that, hey, I'm paying attention. I'm trading the market as I see it. I'm not sitting here looking at the past and trying to tell you what happened in the past. And every time the past happens, right? I'm bidding actively for foresight, but I'm showing you the past on why I took things the way they were.
Read this comment, Will.
And that's why I pin it. I think people think that because I pin that, I'm trying to brag and laugh at people. No, like, we're here to genuinely help people. That's why we had the show. We're here to help people and guide them through the market and help them get better. So I think looking at this and understanding it, I think this is a good place to be looking at this and be like, hey, you know what? Bitcoin might actually move from here. This might be a good place to start positioning. So that's all I'm trying to indicate here. That's all I'm trying to indicate for you guys. It's an arrow on the daily things. Arrow. Sure, I mean, you can take a look at it.
That's a base coin, I think.
Is it on TradingView or no?
It should be.
Okay. Arrow. The stock company?
Try
or base company? Which one?
I think he means this one that you have there, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, Aerodrome.
My God, what do I have going on here? And why do I have it
You
on my
just
chart?
put Aerodrome on Rivian.
Oh, let's go. Let's
The
go
greatest
do that.
collab we never knew we needed.
Let's
real
pretend
hidden
that never
answer.
happened. All right, so new price scale, right? Hold on. No, what am I doing? Let me just come over here. We'll do this. Arrow. We'll add it, and then we'll go to it. My God. I don't know what you're looking for here. I mean, even the RSI, there's just time frame. It kind of sucks. Let's see daily. Oh,
Looks like a lot of base.
Okay. I see why he's looking at it. Look at that, or she. They're looking at the 30. I don't know though, because like these ones can be tough because this thing could trade like this, but price could still do this, right? And that's just what we call a bull div.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll take it here. This is exactly what I was saying previously, that it's different when, and I know that you probably have some exposure, so please do not take this personally or emotionally, right? But Aerodrome is just another shitcoin. That's how it needs to be treated. And when you have oversold RSI on lots of these shitcoins, they can just perpetually bleed. Not to mention that locally it's in a downtrend, right? And in a downtrend, that's also different context than when a market gets oversold in a bull market like BTC is right here. So lots of these needs to be put in context. That's why I always say, guys, look for the context. All of these are just tools. And if you're going to use any tool on its own, you will get wrecked. If you use them in confluence and context, you can make lots of money. But it takes personal approach. If you are just looking for like an arrow to tell you when to buy, right, or when oscillator gets oversold and looking to buy, you will not make it. You need that context.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jackus, and I think that's really important here because a lot of people will take an oversold RSI and they'll look at it and they'll be like, "Oh, this looks good, it's oversold," but the trend is not in favor of your oversold. So because the trend's not in favor of oversold, you could start to form a bull div, but you could be in a multi-month downtrend even with that bull div, and so that's not a position you want to be in. You want to be in a position of strength. A position of strength is something that looks like Bitcoin, right? So you've got your RSI respecting the low, and you've got the market continuing to twop up every single time that it hits that low. That's a position of strength. Your trend's moving towards the upside. This is a position of weakness. This is your trend moving to the downside. And even if you have a position where you should be looking for strength, it can continue to look to go to the downside, even though strength is, possibly starting to turn around.
So guys, Will is dropping massive alpha here. You can tell somebody really understands how to use a tool or an indicator when like they can kind of, I can't even really describe it with words, but like they kind of have that intuitive feel for what the tool is going to do next, and then they can use it to extrapolate price from, if that makes sense. So like that's mad alpha. That comes with a lot of experience, but the like button would not reflect that level of alpha. I'm not going to put the soybeans chart on. I'm going to keep letting Will cook, or Will just sits out and waits. But you guys need to hit the like button because this is very deserving alpha of doing so. So I'm going to ask you guys once again to hit that like button. If we're not above like 250 likes in 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to be mad, and I will throw the soybean chart up, and we might end the show looking at soybeans, which would not be fun. I want to keep looking at our coins, our stocks. If Will has any stocks he might want to share as well. It's like he was talking about in our Discord this morning about how much opportunity is currently abound in the stock market. So that could be some alpha for you guys if you hit the like button.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll talk about some previous plays because we don't want to get into new ones because the like button doesn't reflect that. But I mean, look at my box respector here, right? My box respector. Gap filled. Always look for those plays. Price, was sitting down here, depreciated. You had the V recovery, kind of following very similar to what Bitcoin did here at the low, right? And then you had the breakout move. Again, the breakout move. Now, a lot of people are anticipating this thing to go to zero. Again, what did it do here? Rolled back, right? Retapped liquidity, and then ran again. And that's what I'm anticipating with this one. I'm just going to keep bumping. We'll figure out the like button tomorrow. You guys get way less if we can get the like button up. Way less. And I think like looking at this, I'm looking for a target of 1775. That's what I'm looking for. So I think like price appreciation, and granted, I'm not going to give you guys a full position because I gave it to the Discord and I can't do that. So, but I do have a position on this, and I positioned down here, right? I positioned down here on the pullback. Once we came back, as you can see, I identified the box perfectly. And some of you may be like, "Oh, this was hindsight." This box was here before we ever jumped this high and teleported. Again, teleportation. It's a thing. Study. Literal gap on the open. They opened at, I think, when it was at its peak in the middle of the night, it was roughly at like 18, but they ended up selling it back down on it to the open for like 16 something. So this would have gapped and hit my price target if they wouldn't have sold it down before it opened. Now, because they did this, I'm still anticipating some kind of rebalance back into that range, right? So they're going to rebalance price, push it back up, and then they're going to take it back down, sweep it for multi-months into the low, and then run it right back up again. So this is where I'm going to kind of, I'll give you guys the alpha. I'm going to reposition here, but if you want to know the full position, it'll be in the Discord. I'm going to reposition. Once we hit here, I'm going to sell this position, reposition right in this range again, and then this thing should run up from there and get a nice boom from that play. Why am I expecting this? Same reason I expected Bitcoin to do what it did. It's going to be the same swing. And now the thing is, again, history repeats, right? But it doesn't, or it rhymes, but it doesn't repeat. And I think if you look here, right, and you look at this is what I'm anticipating, right? I'm anticipating a rebalance into the range. And then also I'm expecting this stock to go bullish from there. I'm thinking that overall, we're looking like this. And so my thoughts are a run up to here, run back to here, run back up to here, use that as support, previous zone, and then start running and breaking these highs back into this range. Tell me anybody who could draw that out for you. I know it's scribbles, but tell me anybody who could draw the exact plan of what they think is going to happen moving forward in the stock. I'd love to see them. This is exactly what I think is going to happen for Rivian. Why? Did I know some bullish news? No, I looked at the chart. And then I found out bullish news later, right? When Volkswagen's like, hey, we're going to inject $5 billion into Rivian over the next 2 years. So going into 2026, they immediately injected $1 billion. And they're going to be injecting more billions into Rivian going into 2026, which means what? Everybody's trying to catch that cash flow. They're going to keep bidding the stock. It's going to keep going up until they finish bidding, right? Once Volkswagen runs out of that $5 billion, my stock's going to be worth a lot. Then I'm going to sell it to you. Maybe not all of you, but some of you.
I'm going to sell it to you. Will, you're going to be selling to willing buyers at the fair market price.
At the price they deserve. That's what I'm
Margin call.
Jack has got it. Yeah. Great movie, man. Great movie. Some really great quotes in that. Some great quotes. Some might say a better movie than The Big Short, but I would probably not be one of them, even because the content is for normies. They're not going to enjoy Margin Call, but it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Which one do you like more, though? Is it Big Short?
The Big Short has a little bit more personality to it. Like I can watch all the scenes of it and be like, okay, I could already pretty much mostly understand it at this point, but it's funny and they have actors that are very likable. So I'd probably say The Big Short, but Margin Call is a gem. And the boardroom scene, I don't know if there's a scene in The Big Short as good as the boardroom scene.
No, the boardroom scene is legendary. And I mean legend, wait for it, dairy. No, it's a really good one. And I only wish there would be more financial movies than this. And unfortunately, it seems that we only need like the greatest financial crisis for movies like these to pop. I would wish there would be like like a movie about the good times when things were pumping during the dot-com bubble, right? And someone like running euphoric on the profits and then hitting the dot-com bubble and then losing some. There were hedge funds that got broken, that lost their portfolio when they tried to be like, again, I was saying this many times, but they came with this pretty decent strategy. So they were long on all of it, right? Like, hey, internet adoption, blah, blah, blah. They were long. And it kept on going for years. And then they were like, all right, this is kind of insane. I'm going to stay long on the strong coins, but going to be short on the weak ones, right? Which kind of makes sense. And they still got liquidated. So, like, I do believe that's a movie material on its own. But
I will say the most underrated, Jackus, if you haven't seen it, Uncut Gems. Let's bet on this shit. Let's bet.
That's not really a financial movie, but it does play to the degenerate gambler side of all shitcoiners.
Let's bet on this shit. This is what every shit coiner is thinking every time they see their shit go. I'm not gonna lie, it is fun though. It is fun.
Study Howard Ratner. Oh man.
Oh shit.
Study
Yeah,
Adam
but
Sandler.
yeah,
Mr. Smith is right on this though. But yeah, maybe Samui will come out soon. Who knows?
yeah. The 2008 crash was avoided through backdoor deals, right, and handshakes.
Well,
And
the crash
floating.
happened. The crash happened. The horror was avoided.
The horror was avoided. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The crash. I almost feel okay. So when we describe crash, it's almost as the Fed said exactly what they were going to do, soft landing, right? So maybe the wheels didn't come out and the plane kind of bounced off the ground and slid rather than riding smoothly, and just spun down the runway, but nobody died, right? Nobody died. There's some bumps, scrapes. People got some injuries, all that good stuff. A little bit of brain damage. Some people, the bears in the back. but everybody lived, right? Everybody lived, and I think that's the context a lot of people don't take out of this, is that I don't know if the Fed really succeeded as much as they did, as much as they manipulated, right? Because the manipulation was real. What the Federal Reserve did was not a free economy. It was 100% controlled, and I think that will only get worse moving forward, which means that we don't have a free economy. We have a controlled economy by the
But
government.
do you know what they will table then? That the free market doesn't work. Like, like they will legit cripple it, pause the markets and everything, and then be like, but free markets don't work.
And Jonathan, I do agree. In 2008, people actually did. The plane split in half. Half the plane didn't make it. Half of it did. Yeah, a lot of people died in 2008. But here in 2024, 2023, guess what? We won't even say 2020, because 2024, 2023 was a bull run, whether people want to believe it or not. 2022, they were able to get that plane down, even though the wheels didn't come out, and they're able to land it without a person dying. So it's been a pretty interesting market, but I do think there'll be repercussions to that later, right? I think there'll be repercussions to that market wise. Nothing ever ends perfectly, and I think that there's always a ripple effect when you come in and manipulate markets the way that they did, and that ripple effect I think will just come in later to play. Probably 2026, 2027, you'll see that ripple effect hit the market pretty hard.
I think the first time you'll probably see that ripple effect hit the market, like meaningfully, at least equities, because crypto is obviously.
Are the guys really talking about the ripple effect? Are we sending XRP?
The ripple effect. That's a good.
I think the first ripple effect will be in the back half of 2025, actually, but that's just for equity markets. I'm sure crypto in between will have, who knows how much volatility, man. It always has something going on. Like, equities chatting. Well, surprise. Turns out the US and German governments are selling Bitcoin. Have fun. But yeah, no, I think 2025, the back half, you probably start to see the selling of bonds maybe start to pick back up again, and that will cause issues for equity markets, because it always does. But yeah,
I definitely think that the bond market's going to be what's going to get hit this time around. But yeah, I mean, overall, ETH ETF. I mean, the zones are playing out nicely. I will say that you do have a nice hold here at the low. Again, you're recapturing price above resistance and using it as support again on Ethereum, in my perspective. You got your low, and they were able to bring price right back up again. If they can close up here again on the weekly, just like Bitcoin, this could be the reversal, right? It could be the reversal. And you were very close to trend here too, right back here. But over here, it kind of looks like you want to come back down a little more. Honestly, like, I would feel more comfortable with ETH if ETH were to come back and tap this trend, which it hasn't done yet. So because that hasn't occurred, I'm just going to kind of hang out on that one. And somebody asked me, do I prefer stochastic or RSI? So let me explain these two in Confluence, because I think a lot of people don't understand the purpose of stochastic and the purpose of RSI. So RSI is a strength indicator. Stochastic is also a strength indicator. Stochastic is one of those indicators, though, that can remain directionally biased as long as you remain in the trend that you're moving in. So what does that mean? That means, so RSI should always be, not always, but should typically always be expected to be sold in the high ranges and expected to be bought in the low ranges, right? Stochastic does not work that way. Stochastic can remain overbought and oversold at any time.
Longer than you can remain solvent.
Longer than you can remain solvent. So you can remain at these lows, and as long as you remain at these lows, no matter what's going, if Bitcoin is up here, right, and stochastic is down here, you should just expect that, or sorry, not Bitcoin, RSI. You should just expect that RSI might hang out higher than you think, right? Because your stochastic is still very oversold. It's telling you strength is not quite as weak as you think it is. So whenever these two are not in confluence, then you have to look at the market as in a different way. So look here, stochastic here, right? Look at RSI here. Stochastic's all the way up here. This little reset sent stochastic below the 50. And then price came back up, reappreciated higher, and then we sat up there. Look right here. Stochastic's high. What does that tell you theoretically, right? It's telling you might start to see some kind of deviation on RSI, because then you get, again, another high stochastic. Your stochastic pretty much stays above the 80 range the entire time while your RSI is trending it into this uptrend. It's telling you that the trend up here is strong, but you are going to see some kind of sell-off at some point, right? Whenever you're up here on the stochastic. So if your RSI and your stochastic are both near tops, you're really heavily overbought. If your RSI and your stochastic are closer to bottoms, and again, always consider, when you're in an uptrend, always consider the 50 a bottom. Always consider the 50 a bottom. If you're not in an uptrend, don't consider the 50 a bottom, right? It's not a bottom. But if you're in an uptrend, consider the 50 a bottom, because 50 is, anything above the 50 is a show of strength. Anything below the 50 is a show of weakness. So whenever you're below the 50, it's weakness in the market. So looking at your strength, you're above the 50, you're above the 50, you're at the low on the stochastic. So theoretically, I think the way the stochastic's setting up is to start moving back to the upside, which means that even if RSI dips a little bit, it's going to start moving back up because you're oversold on the stochastic. And even if you may think that you still have more downside on the RSI, which you may still have a little bit, you're in that range to where you can buy, and then you should start selling when your RSI and your stochastic are kind of matching, right? When they're matching each other. This is the way to use these two kind of in tandem versus trying to use one or the other. You should be using these together, not as one or the other. One doesn't trump the other. You should be using them to kind of offset your thought process, because sometimes you may think your strength is there, but your stochastic's still extremely high, which means what? It means that even though we're here, we're going to dip lower because stochastic's all the way up here. So again, just if they're opposites, pay attention. If they are the same, then pay attention. And if they're not, if they're what you call it, moving kind of in tandem, like they were right here, this is probably a top. Like look at this. I'll mark this in tandem out right here. Again, it's hindsight, but like I trade these things all the time. I feel like I have to point out hindsight because it's all I have, obviously. But top, top, top. It's really that easy, right? And then once you rolled back into the low, look, oversold, back on trend, oversold, bounce. And now where are we at again? Oversold, right? Oversold, moves back up, comes back to the 30. And I think that we're probably going to do that. And that's
you can,
gonna
by
be
the way, use
moving back
the
up.
replay tool, well, if you want to. So it's still going to be hindsight, but at least like a live hindsight.
Yeah. We could always use the replay too before this happened. Let's just back up before we get rid of all this stuff added because it's kind of cluttery.
You don't have to, just like an advice to explain stuff.
Yeah, if you guys want to see it, yeah, you can always set up the replay. And you can see kind of where stochastic here is starting to move back up, right? RSI is really high. RSI is really high. So the minute your RSI and stochastic kind of fall in line, boom, now you got that first downtrend, right? They're in line. They're both peak high. Boom, boom, boom. You got your first sell-off candle. And then you just let it kind of play out and just expect that. See right there? See where stochastic starts the bottom? That's where you can start to bid again because your RSI and your stochastic, again, are in tandem bottomed, right? In tandem bottomed. And then play it again. You don't want to use this on like super low time frames. It works much better on higher time frames. And then we are where we are now, right? So I would say we're theoretically close to a bottom here. If RSI comes back down like I'm showing right here, what you'll probably see is a higher low on stochastic and then a swoop. What I would wait for here, I'd wait for the stochastic to veer back up. Once it starts to move back in the uptrend, then you could take that your RSI may be bottom and that your price will probably start to move back up. But again, use these in tandem. Don't use them separately.
The reason I always like stochastic is because it is on paper the more reactive version of RSI. I feel like it gives you kind of that cleaner idea of when momentum is, like, it gives you kind of, I think, the less noisy signal of what high time frame momentum actually is. So I like stochastic. I used to trade with it a lot more, but I'm kind of just an RSI guy because I feel like on lower time frames, at least, RSI is maybe a bit more clear, but stochastic on a higher time frame, it gives just exceptional signals. You can always back test it and it's like, oh, well, I should have caught that type of moment all the time with stochastic. But we have been cooking for quite some time, guys. Let me see. Did we get to 200? We got to 245 likes. If 5 more of you guys can hit the like button, I would be appreciative. I'm sure we all would be appreciative. We had a great episode today. Hopefully giving you guys all the alpha that your heart could possibly consume on this. Well, it's a bit cloudy on today, but on this very cloudy Thursday, but hopefully you enjoyed the show. Nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here with a few quick reminders. First of which is that because Bitcoin BB has officially launched our new hedge fund, BB Wealth Management, we are beyond excited that we can finally bring this to you guys. As I've said repeatedly, it's something that we've been working on a lot, behind the scenes for about a year and a half now. So we are excited, not just that we can trade it as a team, but also that we can offer you, the people, the opportunity, the community, the opportunity to potentially invest in the fund as well as an accredited investor or an LP. And if that's something that interests you, we do have more information linked in the description of this video. Of course, we can reach out to you via email if you email us. Hopefully we answer any and all of your questions, but a general overview of the fund. As I said, guys, we are run by the BB team. It is a long short fund, so it is capable of trading in both directions. And we like to, operate in a way that takes into account crypto's historic propensity for asymmetric upside, as well as the investment risk posed in any market. Not to forget BB Academy, guys, which is currently retailing for about $4.99. I think that is tremendous value. You've got an entire team of guys that have been crushing the markets, and they all approach markets very differently. So if you're looking to build your educational base, maybe you're not sure how to do that, or maybe you're looking for a new way, a new edge to hone in order to conquer these markets. I can't recommend BB Academy enough because of what I just said. Right, you have a variety of traders, a variety of successful traders, and in doing so, you can hone a variety of tools in your bag, and maybe even reach expert level with enough time and effort as well. But yeah, the BB Academy is also linked in the description of this video. Make sure to check that out if that is something that interests you. Maybe while Tucker's out of town, I can get away with running a promotion on the BB Academy. But if he's watching this right now, he's definitely going to shoot me an angry text message for saying that. But we'll see about that. We'll see about that. Anyway, market check. If you guys enjoyed the show, if you're a market check enjoyer, we will be back for another stream tomorrow morning. Looking forward to it. I will be on Eastern Standard Time Zone, so it won't be quite as early for me, but looking forward to seeing you all. As I said, we are live 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every weekday, Monday through Friday. Every day that the New York Stock Exchange is open, we are live on Market Check that morning. But not to forget Market Talk, hosted by the legendary King Wabi. It's a great show. It's a Twitter space. Often takes the flavor of the guests on the stream. So if that is something that you would like, or that you'd be interested in viewing after Market Check, it's a great way to kind of finish off your day. If you're an American, if you're a European, I guess it's a great bedtime story, right? But either way, you'll enjoy the show if you enjoyed Market Check. But thanks again, guys. Thank you again for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday, a great rest of your week if we don't see you again tomorrow. And thanks again for tuning in.
Before we end, we'll talk about CAS tomorrow.
We'll talk about CAS tomorrow. I saw some people asking about it, but for now, yeah, we're gonna end the stream and we're gonna talk about it tomorrow. So stay tuned tomorrow. We'll talk about CASPA. Thanks again, guys.